What's up, everybody? Welcome, one and all, to this Friday edition of Pushing the Limits, and I thank you for joining me. My name is Doug Basham. I'm in for Brian again today. Brian was in Colorado yesterday to attend a vigil for fallen right-wing provocateur Charlie Kirk, and I just found out earlier this morning that Brian took his aunt with him, so I guess that makes her a vigilante? Sorry, it was the only vigil joke I could think of. Doug Basham is the name. My website, DougBasham.com. My email, Doug@DougBasham.com. And for those who weren't with us yesterday, I am still a card-carrying member of the Enemy Within Brigade, also known as one radical leftist lunatic who needs to be handled by the American military. I welcome you all to day 243 of Morning in America, morning spelt with a U, of course, as all true patriots who sincerely love this country continue to wave goodbye to their democracy and anxiously await the stroke and or heart attack that just might save America. 221-7283 is our call-in number here at the station, folks. If you want to talk on the radio in a bit, that's 702-221-SAVE. Now, when I put yesterday's show together, when I started yesterday's show, I mentioned how impressed I was at the PTL community Brian has created and nurtured. I also particularly commented both the number and quality of those listeners who have become callers. And I got to say, you guys did not disappoint. You outdid yourselves. I mean, you passed with flying colors. Me, on the other hand, I kind of flunked. I mean, I was just having so much fun talking to all you guys. I would lose track of time in a call, let some go on too long, and we ended up with a full board at the end of the show of people I couldn't get on the air, and I felt bad for that. So I will endeavor to do better in the call time management area today. That number again, area code 702-221-SAVE. And on that note, let's get to our broken news of the day. I began yesterday's show by telling you that I had nearly finished putting yesterday's show together on Wednesday night when the new Jimmy Kimmel story broke, in which we learned that the late-night comedian had been suspended and his show dropped from the airwaves. I also said that while much coverage had been given of Charlie Kirk's shooting, that it is still important in the context of what is being done in Kirk's name since his death, namely shameless and unconstitutional exploitation. And when America's orange mole isn't bragging about his stupid ballroom and demonstrating how he doesn't give a good goddamn about Charlie Kirk, Diaper Donald is exploiting Kirk's death to accrue more power and take away more of our freedoms. And for those who may have missed it yesterday, I have to play this clip again.
The finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half-staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. Okay. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction.
Again, I just can't. What Donald Trump is doing, he is dragging Charlie Kirk's lifeless, bloody body up and down the political field in order to launch the greatest assault we have ever seen on one of our foundational freedoms and one that sets us apart from so many other countries, our freedom of speech. As Ben Franklin once said, quote, "Whoever would overthrow the liberty of a nation must begin by subduing the freeness of speech," end quote. Sorry for the, I called him Ben Franklin. It should have been Benjamin Franklin. But, you know, we used to be buddies, so it's okay. And how is this dehydrated orange peel accomplishing this blatant unconstitutional attack, you might ask? Simple. A, with the assistance of what I've called for years the right-wing's conservative, corporate-controlled, right-wing fascist media industrial complex. And B, they utilize a ploy with which they have become dangerously proficient, taking their vulnerabilities, weaknesses, and failures and claiming that they are the left's vulnerabilities, weaknesses, and failures. Put another way, accusing their enemy of that which they are guilty themselves. And it works just as well today as it did in 1930s Germany. Case in point, after Kirk's death, they started the chant that it was the left and its rhetoric that led to Charlie Kirk's death. All empirical evidence to the contrary. And I got to tell you, this really pissed me off. But it's the particular rhetoric they're claiming we used that demonstrates how proficient this right-wing media has become, blaming others for what they're doing themselves. First, we hear the milder version from House Speaker Mike Johnson, claiming it was we Democrats, we violent Democrats, who caused this.
Government leaders, and this body in particular, have an increasing tendency to frame simple policy disputes as some sort of existential threat to our country, or as causes to, as some of them have said in their own words, take into the streets. That's not helpful. That is not productive, and it leads to bad consequences. Leaders cannot call their political opponents Nazis and fascists and enemies of the state because they disagree with their policy priorities. I mean, this is something we should have learned in grade school. This type of language spurs on depraved people, deranged people who take that as a cue. And this tragic phenomenon played out this week in Utah. Whether it's in politics, government, media, or business, people look to leaders for guidance, and we have to walk in the dignity of our office, as I say all the time. And when ostensibly serious representatives compare their ideological opponents to murderous dictators and evil people, some see that as a cue to act, and we have to stop that. The political violence has been decried, and it should be across the board, and we got to continue calling it out, and we will until it does.
You notice there how he focused on the murderous part of the dictators, like that's all they were and that's all they did. No, they did a lot of other stuff as well when they weren't being murderers. You know what I'm saying? Next, we hear the spirited version of the same dishonest talking points, courtesy of right-wing talk show host Clay Travis.
I am tired of hearing people say, like Barack Obama did, like Hillary Clinton did, oh, we condemn this violence. Guess what? You can't call the President of the United States for 10 years Adolf Hitler, and you can't say that he's a fascist dictator, and you can't say that anyone who voted for Trump or advocated for him, like you, me, Riley, and Charlie Kirk, are Nazis, and then when someone tries to kill us, you can't suddenly say, oh, we condemn this violence. You caused it. Look at me right now. You caused this. When you tell people that someone is Hitler, you are telling crazy people, go kill them. And I am sick of pretending that that is anything other than what they're doing. That guy in West Palm Beach, what did he say? He was killing Trump because he believed Trump was Hitler. This is what they do, all right? This left-wing violence, it's out of control.
Oh, my God. What a gigantic windbag. And the worst part, he wasn't finished.
This is what they do, all right? This left-wing violence, it's out of control. And Charlie Kirk bore the brunt of that left-wing violence. And guess what? But for the twist of his head at the last minute, Donald Trump's head would have been blown off on live television. And that is intentional. They are lighting fires and then claiming, oh, what do you know? There's a fire there. They're doing it on purpose. MSNBC, Sean, you watched this. They were live on the air saying, one of their guys said, They put out a PR statement. He said, well, Charlie Kirk was riddled basically with hate. And when you put hate out into the world, this kind of thing happens. Oh, tough break. You get shot and killed even though you're completely innocent and all you're doing is making arguments for the betterment of the country. Tough break for your young daughter. Tough break for your son, for your lovely wife that will never get the opportunity to see you grow old with them. I am so angry. And I understand everybody out there says, well, we have to tamp down the anger. I'm not willing to do that right now because I get angrier the more I think about this, Sean. They put the wheels of motion for this in order. They did it, Sean.
Your wife will never see you grow old with your children. And you know, I would never make a malicious joke about Charlie Kirk, but I will tell you this. You know the difference between Charlie Kirk and Charlie Kirk jokes? The jokes will get old. What? I basically said the exact same thing Clay Travis did, but just from a different angle. And of course, Travis is on Fox Noise being interviewed by the always Stepford host, Sean Hasn't Any. And worse still, we heard the same crap from every right-winger, be they a politician or someone with a microphone and some form of online platform. They all got the memo. They all repeated the same dishonest talking points. So what say we expose them for the lies they are? Someone needs to do it. Neither the Democrats nor anyone I've heard in the media seems to have the stones to do it. First, the lie that we violent Democrats caused this. How? They say by calling Trump and his mewling minions fascists. First, give me a freaking break. These morons on the right have been calling for civil war for years, if not decades. And only one side of the political aisle tried to overturn a free and fair election. Second, I would contend this didn't happen because of us calling you fascists. It happened because you are fascists. You are fascists who are enabling the fascist inclinations and predispositions of the orange, treasonous, authoritarian dictator wannabe. If you don't want to be called fascist, A, don't act like fascists. By B, supporting a certified fascist and dictator in waiting. It's real simple. But you see, where do you see or hear this exact pushback from Democrats? Where do you see Democrats appearing on television or elsewhere saying, this didn't happen because we called them fascists. This happened because they are fascists. Anyone? Anywhere? And why else is this a lie? Well, just maybe because of this.
Between these far-left fascists led by Harris and her group, we have a fascist person running who's incompetent.
She's a Marxist, communist, fascist, socialist. She's not actually a socialist. She's gone past that.
Somebody's got to explain this woman. This is a radical left Marxist, communist, fascist. She probably goes back to her room and gets sick to her stomach when she says what she has to say, because she's a Marxist, she's a fascist, and she never believed.
Now, I'm sure you all realize that President Pantload is just throwing words around there, just pulling them out of you-know-where, words of which he has less than zero understanding. But getting back to Clay Travis, here's the truly audacious part of all this. First, none of what you just saw and heard was genuine. It was all, and I do mean all, political theater. All of it. Not one iota of sincerity. Clay Travis was lying through his teeth, and he knew he was lying. They all know they're lying when they play the Charlie was killed because Democrats called us fascist game. But you see, it's all part of the unspoken but well understood rules of the cult. It's almost like an oath they take, an oath they must take when they decide to sell their souls and become a member of the biggest problem this country has faced for decades. Again, the conservative, corporate-controlled, right-wing, propaganda, fascist, hate media, industrial complex. But back to their ploy, accusing us Democrats of what they're doing. This isn't anything new. The right and their media were always good at accusing the other side of that, what they were doing. But how they're doing it now, claiming it's because they were called fascists and not because they are, and then using that lie to have people fired, they have taken this to new stratospheric levels. And I got to tell you, that takes stones the size of watermelons. Well, that and a weak, feckless opposition party. Mike Johnson, Clay Travis, all of them. They know damn well that President Stool Sample is an authoritarian dictator wannabe who's doing everything to subvert and destroy our democracy. And they're just fine with that. Because if they voice any opposition, they know they'll be primaried by someone even more loopy and extreme. This reminds me of something a very wise man by the name of Richard Wildman told me many years ago. He said the definition of power is being wrong at the top of your lungs. And you just heard Clay Travis do exactly that. He was wrong and he was lying, but he was loud and sure sounded like he was making a good point, didn't he? Richard Wildman, by the way, was the top Rolls-Royce salesman 6 years in a row. And if you think Super Bowl rings are gaudy, you should see the rings the top Rolls salesmen get. And when your last name is Wildman, it's not unusual to be called Wild Man. Richard Wildman genuinely earned that nickname and would have if his last name had been Smith. And really, nobody should be surprised at Trump's latest authoritarian actions. He told us all back in 2022 how little use he had for the Constitution. Quote, a massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. End quote. Again, he's not only showing contempt and disdain for our Constitution, he is citing a blatant lie, aka election fraud, in order to justify his contempt for it. And really, this and this alone is all you need. And I don't care where you stand on the political spectrum. If someone says the United States Constitution should be terminated, that should immediately, if not sooner, disqualify them from running from any office in this nation, let alone the highest one, period. And while we're here, check out one more weak-ass indictment of the mainstream media. Look at this headline in Newsweek. Look at the headline, quote, fact check. Did Donald Trump call easy for me to say, fact check. Did Donald Trump call to suspend the Constitution? End quote. No, he didn't, you pussies. A suspension infers something will be reinstated. He didn't call for that. He called for rules, regulations, and articles, even in the Constitution, to be terminated, which by its very definition precludes the possibility of reinstatement. Now, for you slow-witted Trump humpers, let me put it in a way you should be able to understand. Charlie Kirk wasn't suspended. He was terminated. See the difference? Of course you don't. And like I warned for months leading up to last year's election, if Trump is reelected, he will govern on the lies and conspiracy theories he told for the 4 years he wasn't in office. And so now what's he doing? One investigation after another, primarily anyone who had a role in investigating him. And now he's going after people who won't bend the knee, kiss the ring, and obey in advance. But I know, Megan, it's a hoax, right? It's a witch hunt. Like I said yesterday, how many times are you going to let Trump and his media play you for the fools you are? How many times are you going to embarrass yourselves by buying into yet one more hoax and witch hunt lie before you consider that maybe it's just him? But back to this unprecedented tactic. They're lying by saying it's we liberals calling them fascists that led to Kirk's death, which is bad enough. But then they're using that lie to take away our citizens and our free speech, and having them fired if they dare exercise that same free speech. I mean, that's not just ballsy. That is evil, pure and simple. That is Donald Trump. But again, while this tactic is nothing new, what it's being used to justify now is completely unprecedented. Again, the loss of our free speech and the further onslaught of fascism. And this isn't just about Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert. It's about the number of people you've never heard of who have already lost their jobs because they utilize their free speech to criticize someone who would welcome them to do just that. Charlie Kirk. But thankfully, Jimmy Kimmel's fame and celebrity is drawing attention to their plights as well. Here's just one report I managed to get on tape.
Welcome back, everyone. Every day we see people go on social media posting comments after a tragedy. Right now across the country, we're now seeing many people lose their jobs after posting comments about Charlie Kirk's death. NBC's Steve Patterson has the latest on these fallouts.
In the wake of the murder of Charlie Kirk, celebrated in death for his embrace of freedom of speech in life, tensions over speech are flaring. Utah Governor Spencer Cox on Friday calling for calm.
Charlie posted to social media, when things are moving very fast and people are losing their minds, it's important to stay grounded. Turn off your phone, read scripture, spend time with friends, and remember, internet fury is not real life.
But in the wake of Kirk's death, online fury indeed, and swift reaction to it. 2 faculty members at East Tennessee State University, among several in academia facing backlash, placed on administrative leave following complaints about their online comments. In Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis' education commissioner issued a warning to teachers making disgusting comments about the shooting. Writing in a memo, I will be conducting an investigation of every educator who engages in this vile, sanctionable behavior. Govern yourselves accordingly. The fallout also appearing in corporate America. Delta Airlines announcing it suspended several employees over their social media posts.
I'm sorry, we don't put that here.
Office Depot firing a Michigan employee who called a poster for a Kirk Vigil propaganda and refused to print it. The company apologizing, saying in a statement, the behavior displayed by our associate is completely unacceptable and insensitive. The response also in the federal government, a Secret Service agent put on administrative leave with an investigation underway following comments described as inappropriate. Tonight, a line being drawn over discourse.
You should be allowed to say outrageous things. You should be allowed to say contrarian things.
In the wake of the assassination of a man who defended it. Steve Patterson, NBC News.
And those are just some of the many who have been fired, many for comments that simply were not fireable, like Jimmy Kimmel's. And how I first heard of Kimmel's suspension was through a press release I received Wednesday night from one group I subscribe to, Free Press. It's kind of a thing with me. The subject line read, quote, ABC and Nexstar abandon First Amendment to appease Trump, end quote. Here's the actual release. On Wednesday, ABC announced it was yanking Jimmy Kimmel's late night show off the air indefinitely after the host made comments about how right-wing extremists were responding to the killing of Charlie Kirk. The move followed threats Trump FCC Chairman Brendan Carr made in an interview with right-wing podcaster Benny Johnson. We can do this the easy way or the hard way, Carr said. These companies can find ways to change conduct and take actions on Kimmel, or there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead, end quote. And just to be clear, this is fascism, plain and simple. Oh, I'm sorry. That was my comment. I thought that was, no, that wasn't the press release. That was me. So I better say it with more emphasis, more oomph. And just to be clear, this is fascism, plain and simple. Better. Back to the press release, quote, in response, Nexstar, the nation's largest broadcast chain, which is currently seeking FCC approval of its merger with Tanya and the elimination of longstanding FCC media ownership limits, announced it would preempt Kimmel's program on its 24 ABC affiliate stations. Free Press co-CEO Craig Aaron made the following statement, quote, Donald Trump and Brendan Carr have turned the FCC into the Federal Censorship Commission, ignoring the First Amendment and replacing the rule of law with the whims of right-wing bloggers. They're abusing their power to shake down media companies with their dangerous demands for dishonest coverage and Orwellian compliance with the administration's demands. This is nothing more than censorship and extortion. Worse still, the nation's largest media companies are playing along, or I would say obeying in advance. Nexstar is willing to sacrifice any semblance of independence or integrity to smooth the path for its next mega merger. Having failed to buy off Trump with a ridiculous legal settlement last year, ABC keeps caving regardless of how meritless the administration's claims are and how much lasting damage they are doing to free speech in America. These companies are turning the public airwaves into another propaganda arm of the Trump regime. This is a new low for the FCC and corporate power, and that's saying something. The rest of us must speak out against this abuse of power and unite to defend free expression. These companies are unworthy stewards of the public airwaves. Brendan Carr is completely unworthy of his position and the public trust. Yesterday, the Washington Post censored and fired columnist Karen Attiah. Today, Jimmy Kimmel is on the chopping block. Tomorrow, it could be any of us. That's all the more reason those with power and platforms in this country must stop capitulating and start fighting back. End quote. Hell of a press release. The question is, who exactly is going to fight back and how? Are we going to leave it to our Democratic politicians and legislators in Congress, in both the House and the Senate? Will they do more than write a sternly worded letter, or will they get on top of a building and start screaming at the top of their lungs? Do something to get noticed. Fight. Do something. And here's what's ironic. Back in July, when late-night comedian Stephen Colbert made this announcement, it was quickly followed up by remarks from Captain Comeover, wherein he said the quiet part out loud.
Before we start the show, I want to let you know something that I found out just last night. Next year will be our last season. The network will be ending The Late Show in May. And
Fallon has no talent. Kimmel has no talent. They're next. They're going to be going. I hear they're going to be going. I don't know, but I would imagine because they get, you know, Colbert has better ratings than Kimmel or Fallon. You know that.
They're next. They're going to be going. That's the quiet part out loud. And then the take back or walk back for plausible deniability. I hear they're going to be going. I don't know, but people have said. It's not like we're targeting them, and that's why they'll be leaving, which is undoubtedly much closer to the truth. We're finding out in the last couple of days it is the truth. And then the recovery, they're going because their ratings are lower than Colbert's. And the sickest part of this, first, like I said yesterday, Trump is the kind of miserable, insecure slob who has to tear others down in order to feel good about himself. And everybody in this nation should be embarrassed to friggin' tears that the leader of our country is so immature and insecure that he talks this way in public. Fallon's got no talent. Kimmel's got no talent. I mean, he says the same thing about journalists, authors, politicians, everyone who dares challenge him or dares to report the truth about him. They have no talent. It's a witch hunt, so no talent. And again, how many times are you Trumpers, you slow-witted, dull-headed Trumpers, gonna fall for this? It's the same dog's breakfast every day. It's a hoax. It's a witch hunt. No talent. It's not fair. He's just... Bill Maher had it right several years ago when he said he's just a whiny little bitch. period. This is how MSNBC's Chris Hayes began his show yesterday, right after he played the sound clip from Trumple Thin Skin you just heard, the no talent one. I had this and other clips ready for yesterday's show, just didn't get to them.
They're next. I hear they're going to be going. Well, tonight, an ABC spokesperson confirms that Jimmy Kimmel's late night show has been preempted indefinitely. Now, it comes just hours after a large set of ABC affiliates announced they would refuse to air Kimmel's show. They say because of comments the late night host made on Monday night relating to the motives of the man that shot and killed Charlie Kirk, wrongly suggesting the killer was part of the MAGA movement. He was not.
You know, that is one heavy load right there on two fronts. First, Nexstar strongly objects to recent comments made by Mr. Kimmel concerning the killing of Charlie Kirk. That is bullshitsky. Jimmy Kimmel has said much more damning things than what they're alleging is irking them so much this time. Second, what Trump, his media, and his brain-dead MAGA cult base are saying simply isn't true. And as much as I love Chris Hayes, and I do, I believe he's 100% wrong. Jimmy did not say or suggest that the shooter was MAGA. That said, what if he had? Really, MAGA? That's what you have your panties in a wad over? Be honest. What you're really pissed off about is that it wasn't a black or trans man, am I right? But it doesn't matter. It's all moot anyway because that's not what he said. This is what he did say.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
There you go. That's it. Not even, well, I struggle to say this, or I hesitate to say this. Not even a MAGA moron can claim they haven't been trying to score political points off Charlie Kirk's death. That is a given. Second, as for Kimmel's point, they're desperately trying to make it look like the shooter was not one of them. That's true. Once the right discovered the shooter was white, they absolutely came up with any conspiracy theory or lie they could to make him look like he wasn't one of them. They accused him of being Antifa. They mischaracterized the markings on the bullets. They shouted in glee, "He lives with his transgender boyfriend." Jimmy Kimmel spoke the truth. And if you need any more validation of what he said other than what you just heard him say, here's the Republican governor from Utah, Spencer Cox.
For 33 hours, I was praying that if this had to happen here, that it wouldn't be one of us, that somebody drove from another state, somebody came from another country.
Jimmy says he has no plans to apologize, which is one of the demands now being made on him by Sinclair Broadcasting. Number one, they want him to make a sizable donation to Charlie Kirk's charity and issue a formal and public apology. Truthfully, Jimmy has nothing to apologize for. He may want to play the game to get back on. I don't know what's in his mind. All I know is that Jimmy does have nothing. He has nothing to apologize for. You heard what he said. Every word out of his mouth was the truth. Maybe they didn't like it, but who cares? And speaking of which, as Chris continued his monologue, he went into some heavy detail concerning what's really going on behind the scenes with big media. And I'll warn you in advance, this is some heavy stuff with a lot of names that may not be familiar to you. It's the kind of reporting that's hard to find anymore because it has a tendency to make one's eyes glaze over. But I encourage you to stay awake, as it is some really serious, consequential stuff with even more serious ramifications. And this first bit concerns the aforementioned Nexstar and one Brendan Carr, again, Trump's hand-picked FCC chairman.
And will replace the show with other programming in its ABC affiliated markets. And if that were the whole story, he said something, it was not correct, the affiliates pushed back, well, then that would be one story. But that, of course, is not the whole story. okay? Because crucially, just hours before that statement, Trump's hand-picked FCC chairman went on a podcast and suggested ABC's broadcast license or affiliates could be at risk if they did not suspend or fire Kimmel, essentially issuing an order saying, and I quote him here, "We can do this the easy way or the hard way." Well, hours later, ABC made the announcement Kimmel would indeed be taken off the air indefinitely. And this is just the latest chapter in Donald Trump's ongoing campaign to crack down on free speech, dominate the media, and essentially render the First Amendment meaningless.
And just for the record, folks, Trump's FCC chairman, Brendan Carr, was one of the principal authors of Project 2025. And what you just heard him say in the threat he issued, that is fascism, plain and simple, straight out of the dictator's handbook. And as Chris continues, he brings up something a caller did yesterday, the number of liberal Democratic groups Trump plans on going after. It's almost if he's trying to get the ruthless dictators of the world to love him as much as he loves them.
To crack down on free speech, dominate the media, and essentially render the First Amendment meaningless. An extreme campaign that has been on overdrive the past week. I mean, just yesterday, you had the Deputy Attorney General of these United States, the number 2 of the Department of Justice and the former criminal lawyer for the president, suggesting using criminal anti-racketeering laws, the kind of things used for mobsters, RICO statutes, to go after and prosecute protesters who heckled Donald Trump at a restaurant, who yelled at him. We're also getting new reports today. The White House plans to target a variety of left-leaning groups and nonprofits in the coming weeks, all part of a larger and more dangerous effort underway. And it follows a playbook we have seen successfully run in recent years by authoritarian strongmen in places like Hungary and Turkey and Russia.
You still with me? Mob boss charges for protesting or just heckling. And not just that. Oh, no. But protesting and heckling Donald Trump. He doesn't give a continental rat's ass if you protest and heckle anybody else on this planet. But you can't protest and heckle him. Again, this is fascism. And that's mob boss talk. Again, I swear this guy is really fattening his demo tape for the next meeting of Dictators Anonymous. Chris Hayes continued.
A playbook we have seen successfully run in recent years by authoritarian strongmen in places like Hungary and Turkey and Russia. Because in those places, they didn't just criminalize speech they didn't like, though some of them did some of that. Crucially, they made it virtually impossible to see and hear examples of that speech by taking de facto control of the media landscape. In Hungary, for example, the country's oldest newspaper was suddenly shuttered after being bought by a businessman with links to far-right President Viktor Orban. According to Reporters Without Borders, Orban has used media buyouts by government-connected oligarchs to build a true media empire subject to his party's orders. The group estimates such buyouts have given Orban's party control of some 80% of Hungary's media market resources. It is a similar situation in Turkey, where, according to Reuters, the biggest media brands are controlled by companies and people close to longtime leader Recep Erdogan and his AK party, following a series of acquisitions starting in 2008. Then, of course, there's Russia, where oligarchs friendly to President Vladimir Putin control much of the media. Wartime restrictions have shut down the rest. In each of these 3 countries, they didn't just arrest protesters or dissident journalists or show up knocking on the door of magazines. They used government power, and sometimes through legal mechanisms, to essentially roll up all of the country's media into a friendly propaganda arm of the regime.
Did you get all that? Firstly, they've already accomplished a huge portion of that already. For decades now, the right has essentially had their own state-run media. Today, it's become powerful enough that they can have people fired, shows canceled, political groups shut down, and ignore the few court orders that don't go their way. And anyone who pays attention knows full well how much the tiny-fisted emperor loves Turkey's Recep Erdogan and Hungary's Viktor Orban. Same with Russia's Vladimir Putin. Again, he loves them because he wants to be them. He wants the same kind of power these dictators have. Again, this is a guy who said our Constitution should be terminated. He is proving it, and I think it's damn high time we start taking him seriously. And as Chris Hayes continued, he pointed out how even more of our media is in danger of being swallowed up by this already behemoth right-wing propaganda, fascist hate media. And this is where it starts to get real thick.
They used government power, and sometimes through legal mechanisms, to essentially roll up all of the country's media into a friendly propaganda arm of the regime. So given that context, I want you to look around the U.S. right now and see what's been happening here, right in front of our eyes. In July, the Trump FCC, that's the entity that Brendan Carr controls, approved the sale of Paramount, with it, CBS, to Skydance Media, which is controlled by the family of pro-Trump tech billionaire named Larry Ellison. It was his son, actually, who's buying it. Now, that approval only came after Paramount paid Trump $16 million to settle the president's obvious, frivolous, ludicrous lawsuit against CBS News and 60 Minutes for editing interviews. And after the Ellisons agreed to eliminate DEI programs, and after they agreed to install an executive, formerly from a conservative think tank, to essentially act as a sort of ideological minder at CBS News for political bias. So they did all those things, then they got the approval for this very, very large merger. After that, CBS canceled Stephen Colbert's top-rated late-night show, which was notorious for its criticism of the sitting president.
So, Trump's FCC approved the sale of Paramount, which includes CBS, to Skydance Media. And that was after Paramount settled a stupid lawsuit Trump had brought against them to the tune of $16 million. Paramount also had to agree to eliminate DEI programs and install an executive from a right-wing think tank to act as a bias babysitter at CBS News. And then they fired Stephen Colbert. More fascism, folks. Make sure your news coverage is favorable to dear leader, or we just may have to make some changes at your news department. You know what I'm saying? Fascism, plain and simple. Oh, and that late night comedian, you have to fire him too. Dear leader doesn't find him particularly funny. And while millions of Americans do, all that matters is what dear leader wants. Like one astute caller said yesterday, and there were many astute callers, can't wait to hear from him again today. This isn't where we are headed. We are already there. But again, news stories like this are complicated and as a result hard to follow, which helps them slip more fascism right by the general populace. And do you think the right-wing propaganda fascist hate media will report any of this? If they do, it'll be framed as Trump taking back control of a corrupt media, which his brain-dead MAGA cult base was brainwashed into believing long before Trump entered politics. And again, this is the same right-wing media who played up the dishonest warfare card so much and so thoroughly through the Biden administration. Again, even though it was a lie, that their brain-dead MAGA cult base, they see moves like this in the media not as authoritarian, but rather as just and righteous payback. Isolating themselves inside the bowels of their media bubble and echo chamber, they heard the term warfare so much, so repeatedly, they've been brainwashed into believing not only all the warfare lies, but that this kind of retribution is both justified and necessary in order to save the country. Chris continued.
After that, CBS canceled Stephen Colbert's top-rated late-night show, which was notorious for its criticism of the sitting president. Last week, after Larry Ellison officially leapfrogged another pro-Trump billionaire, Elon Musk, to become the world's richest man, the new Paramount conglomerate made another media bid, this time for Warner Brothers Discovery, which just so happens to own CNN. So there's a possibility that they could purchase that and roll that up as well. Then yesterday, we got this news about TikTok. Perhaps you've seen it. Do you remember the Chinese-owned app? That was banned as a security risk because of a bipartisan vote in both houses of Congress and signed into law by Joe Biden. And then Donald Trump just literally ignored the law while he searched for a U.S. buyer. Well, yesterday there was news of a framework of a deal. Interesting. Let's see what the deal is. Gives Americans an 80% stake in TikTok. Which Americans? Well, you'll never guess. Yes, Larry Ellison is one of them, along with far-right venture capitalist, Trump donor, Doge consultant, MAGA backer Mark Andreessen. As Talking Points memo noted, if all those deals all go through, that would mean the Murdoch family controlling Fox News, the Journal, New York Post, its other properties, Twitter, TikTok, CBS, CNN, and more owned by Elon Musk, and the Ellison family, the Washington Post owned by Jeff Bezos. The Trump administration is threatening to bring the government down on free speech and use it against dissent. It is also facilitating the sale of some of our biggest private media outlets to Trump allies and is a very obvious attempt to consolidate power over free expression.
Now, Chris Hayes is seldom a flamethrower, but you can see and hear his concern. So, the right-wing media doesn't just want to swallow up Paramount and CBS. They want CNN as well. And scarier still, the Murdoch family would control Fox News, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Post, Twitter, TikTok, CBS, CNN, and more owned by Elon Musk and the Ellison family. And again, the brain-dead MAGA cult base won't say diddly to this further advance of fascism. Why? Because for decades they have allowed themselves to be brainwashed into believing CNN is liberal news. And now in the era of Trump, fake news. But ponder this. Fox News, Wall Street Journal, New York Post, Twitter, TikTok, CBS, CNN, and many other media entities, all under one big happy propaganda and disinformation umbrella. You know, which has been the case in every other dictatorship before us. And again, I apologize if that was a little thick, heavy, or maybe hard to follow, and maybe even boring, which is exactly what Team Trump is counting on. These huge media mergers are enormously complicated, and they're hoping we'll get bogged down in the details. Our eyes will glaze over. We won't follow it. And the right-wing media will just continue to grow to dictatorship-worthy levels. This is not a drill, folks. This is our life. And some might ask the question, does it matter what Trump does? Can't the next president, assuming it'll be a Democrat, just change them back? Well, first, that assumes there'll be a next president. And frankly, I don't think Trump is making all these changes thinking they'll only be for a couple years. You think he gives a continental rat's ass if the Constitution says he can't be elected more than twice? Steve Bannon has been plotting a workaround to that for months, if not years.
I'm a firm believer that President Trump will run and win again in 2028. So I've already endorsed President Trump. A man like this comes along once every century if we're lucky. We've got him now. He's on fire, and I'm a huge supporter. Want to see him again in 2028.
And obviously, anybody who doesn't like what you say but judges it as a function of a lack of intelligence doesn't know anything about you. I don't make that mistake. You're a smart guy. Oh, you know he's term limited. How do you think he gets another term?
We're working on it. I think we'll have a couple of alternatives. Let's say that. We'll see. We'll see what the definition. We'll see what the definition of term. We'll see what the definition of term limit is.
Wow, just wow, Steve Bannon, folks. But hold on. He began his diatribe by saying this conduct by Kimmel. Oh no, wait a minute. I'm jumping ahead here in my notes. What is wrong with me? Back to where I was supposed to be. Justin, he pointed his finger at me. I've been a bad boy. So after I put this all together last night, I turned to MSNBC to see what Chris Hayes was doing. I had to tune in at midnight. I missed him at 5 o'clock. I was busy having dinner with my harem. I wish. And lo and behold, A, if we didn't hear more on the Jimmy Kimmel story, and B, if Trump didn't utter another quiet part out loud. Now, you heard Chris mention the threat made to networks by Trump's FCC chair, Brendan Carr. We now have the audio.
You know, when you look at the conduct that has taken place by Jimmy Kimmel, it appears to be some of the sickest conduct possible. Frankly, when you see stuff like this, I mean, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to change conduct, to take action, frankly, on Kimmel, or, you know, there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead. A very reasonable, minimal step that can be taken. I mean, obviously, look, there's calls for Kimmel to be fired. I think, you know, you could certainly see a path forward for suspension over this. And again, you know, the FCC is going to have remedies that we could look at.
Now, hold on. Hold on just a second. He began this diatribe by saying this conduct by Kimmel, exact words now, appears to be some of the sickest conduct possible. First, it's not. Your orange boss says worse things on a daily basis. Second, it appears to be. You're bullying big media into firing someone based on what? An assumption that it appears to be sick? Again, it wasn't, as we proved earlier. If you missed it, this is what Jimmy Kimmel said.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
And this, what you just heard, is some of the sickest conduct possible. How? Can anybody explain that to me like I'm 7? Mega faithful, this is on you. Explain to me how what you just heard Jimmy Kimmel say is some of the most sick, what do you call it, the sickest conduct possible. I'd like to know the sickest conduct possible. I didn't hear it. Did you? And this Brendan Carr, FCC chairman, talking about sick conduct, has he not heard what dumb jock Brian Kilmeade said on Fox just recently? And I had to splice this clip together from 2 different sources. That's why it changes in the middle.
They have given billions of dollars to mental health and the homeless population. A lot of them don't want to take the programs. A lot of them don't want to get the help that is necessary. You can't give them a choice. Either you take the resources that we're going to give you, and or you decide that you're going to be locked up in jail. That's the way it has to be now.
Or involuntary lethal injection or something. Just kill them. Just kill them. Just kill them. Just kill them.
Involuntary lethal injection. Just kill him. And you know, if you watch that and I replayed it, he wasn't kidding. But yeah, Jimmy Kimmel deserves to be fired. Brian Kilmeade, not so much. He just said start killing homeless people and people with mental problems. No biggie. This is our life now, folks. This is our life now. Again, I thank the caller who called in yesterday and said, this isn't where we're heading. This is where we are right friggin' now. But getting back to Brendan Carr, FCC chair, here you have a government official threatening private businesses, sounding like a mob boss. We can do this the easy way or the hard way, to take action on Jimmy Kimmel. He's demanding Kimmel be fired or else. And the FCC, they have remedies if these companies fail to comply. Jesus, we're not just slipping into a dictatorship, but a mafia family as well. And both Nexstar and Sinclair did exactly what Carr told them to do. They caved, they bent the knee, they kissed the ring, they obeyed in advance. And here's a kick in the nuts with a frozen boot. This Brendan Carr wasn't always at least a complete fascist. This is what he said back in February of 2019. Quote, should the government censor speech it doesn't like? Of course not. The FCC does not have a roving mandate to police speech in the name of the public interest. End quote. Trumpers, quick pro tip, there is no defense for this. None. And the fellow who called in yesterday dismissing talk about Trump being a threat to democracy and that he's a fascist, how do you defend or dismiss this? This is big stuff. Some of those clips I played may have been boring. My eyes started to glaze over when I was putting it together, but I paid attention. And in the editing process, I had to listen to it a bunch of times. And the more I did, it was like, holy shit, this is serious stuff. But again, it's complicated. And I mean, quite frankly, it's too much for most people to follow. This is why they have a complete staff of lawyers to get into all of the legal stuff that's involved in these multi-mergers. But again, there's no defense for this. And just to remind you, while you can overlook the obvious at this stage of the game because you're on his side, just remember that in the end, fascist states did not work out for anybody, whether they supported the dictator wannabe in the first place or not. FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr had this to say after Kimmel was dumped.
We are in the midst of a massive shift in dynamics in the media ecosystem for lots of reasons. Again, including the permission structure that President Trump's election has provided. And I would simply say we're not done yet with seeing the consequences of that shift.
Well, what does that mean when you say you're not done yet, then? I mean, will you only be pleased when none of these comedians have a show on broadcast television?
No, again, it's not about any particular show or any particular person. It's just we're in the midst of a very disruptive moment right now, and I just frankly expect that we're going to continue to see changes in the media ecosystem.
Now, hold on just a cotton-picking minute. He began this diatribe by saying there was going to be even more extreme changes to the media, and then he said, created by the permission structure provided by Trump's election victory. Huh? Trump's election victory provided permission to do unconstitutional things? Yeah, in Trump's mind. And then later he says, we're in the midst of a very disruptive moment, as if his boss didn't willfully and deliberately create this disruptive moment. And again, he's trying to make it look like this massive media shift, as he put it, it's just happening willy-nilly, and neither he or his orange boss have anything to do with it. Bullshit. And like I said, once again, Trump said the quiet part out loud and blurted out exactly what he expects this massive media shift to be. And in so doing, again, acts like the whiny, mewling little crybaby we featured him acting like yesterday.
Look, that's something that should be talked about for licensing too. When you have a network and you have evening shows and all they do is hit Trump. That's all they do. If you go back, I guess they haven't had a conservative on in years or something, somebody said. But when you go back and you take a look, all they do is hit Trump. They're licensed. They're not allowed to do that. They're an arm of the Democrat Party.
First, more mob language. All they do is hit Trump. They hit Trump. No, that's not all they do. They cover other stories as well, including many not politically related at all. And more of his incessant and embarrassing mewling and belly aching. Rambo, Rocky, bull. Next lie. They haven't had a conservative on in years. Somebody said. That's the old many people are saying ruse. Nobody told him that, and he certainly didn't do any research on his own. That's just another lie he pulled out of his wrinkled ass. And while big media thus far has obeyed in advance, legendary media icon David Letterman said what everybody should be saying.
I feel bad about this because we all see where this is going, correct? It's managed media, and it's no good. It's silly. It's ridiculous. And you can't go around firing somebody because you're fearful or trying to suck up to an authoritarian criminal administration in the Oval Office. That's just not how this works.
Well, technically he's correct, but sorry, David, that's the way it is working. And I got to say, who's going to stop him? Republican legislators? No way. The Supreme Court? Iffy at best. Now, Chris Hayes featured clips from right-wing podcasters condemning Trump's latest authoritarian move. Personally, I've never heard of any of them. And the problem is some of them are blaming the FCC chairman, which is kind of still sucking up to Trump because Brendan Carr is only doing what Trump is telling him to do. So that doesn't really get you a place on the real profile and courage board. It's just another way to ignore reality and never criticize dear leader. Now, this first group you're about to hear did place some of the blame on the screaming carrot demon.
This was Trump and the FCC leaning on Disney, bullying them and the affiliate owners, and they capitulated to Trump. They're scared right now, and if Trump and the extreme right and this idiot who runs the FCC, they don't like somebody, they're going to bully them down.
In terms of censorship, freedom of speech is more under attack now, honestly, than I think it has ever been. If you're a staunch Trump guy, I think you should really look at, this guy said in the inauguration, I'm going to pass an executive order to ban government, to end government censorship and make speech free again, or whatever it was that he said. Mm-hmm. You said that in your inauguration. Mm-hmm. What happened?
Everything he said shouldn't happen already has. Now, oh no, wait a minute. I got something else. We did hear some, I would say, encouraging words from someone, I guess we could call an unlikely source, that Mother Tucker Carlson, although he seemed like he'd missed the news events of the past few days.
You hope that Charlie Kirk's death won't be used by a group we now call bad actors to create a society that was the opposite of the one he worked to build. You hope that. You hope that a year from now, the turmoil we're seeing in the aftermath of his murder won't be leveraged to bring hate speech laws to this country. And trust me, if that does happen, there is never a more justified moment for civil disobedience than that, ever, and there never will be.
Again, everything he said shouldn't happen already has. I mean, Tucker, it already has. Now, it'll get worse before it gets worse. See what I did there? But make no mistake, it has happened already, and not just to some small, insignificant extent. It's happening big time. 221-7283 is our call-in number here at the station, folks. If you would like to chat, that's 702-221-SAVE. To the phones we charge with vim and vigor, and we'll start with Mark. You're first. Thanks for calling.
Hey, I was said yesterday that we aren't heading there. We are there.
Yep.
But there's a few things I'd like to mention. One on the survivors of Epstein, one on Adam Schiff, and one on Rokana, if you don't mind. And I'll do it real quick. As far as the Epstein survivors now, I had mentioned this when Brian was hosting the show a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, we let him do that occasionally.
I had mentioned that they had this big press conference out on the steps, and they were talking about how they support Trump, they voted for Trump, please Trump, begging Trump to release the names. And then one of them said, we're going to release the names with or without your help in 2 weeks. Well, it's been 3 weeks now, and they pulled the Donald Trump playbook of 2 weeks. And standing there and saying we support you, Trump, and we back you, you're losing credibility right there and then, okay? Number two, Adam Schiff finally opens his mouth in a press conference, finally starts yelling, and there's only one reason, and what Lev Parnas had stated a few days ago, that they're going to be coming after Adam Schiff hard.
Oh, yeah.
And they're going to look into every single document he ever filed with the government. And that's the only reason why he did a press conference, I think it was yesterday, where he lambasted Trump. He finally opened his mouth because it's happening to him.
Yeah.
And thirdly, Ro Connor was on Lev Parnas and for about 10 minutes.
Okay.
And I'm not sure what is wrong with these congressmen. I applaud Ro Connor for trying to get these Epstein files out and all that. But do they have their eyes closed? Because they're all talking about how they're going to take the House back and the Senate back next November. And I'm saying to myself, and the people in the chat will verify this, I've been saying since January that either the election is going to be martial law, there's not going to be any, or they're going to have ICE at all the blue districts stopping people who don't look like you and me from even going into the polls by detaining them. So Trump is not going to allow, is no way is going to allow this election to be given to the Democrats. He can't lose that support, and there's no way he's going to let it go. What do you think?
I'll tell you what I think, Mark. I appreciate the call. Good as always. My thing is, for all the people who are pinning their hopes on the midterms and Democrats taking back at least one of the houses of Congress, maybe even both, I don't think it matters. Keep in mind, we know who we're dealing with. Donald Trump cares about nobody else but himself. He doesn't give a good goddamn about the GOP. Not one member, except to the extent they are useful to him. If he loses the House and the Senate, he won't care. He's still got the White House. He's still got the Supreme Court. And as far as him not being able to pass something in Congress because he doesn't control those houses, he'll just write more executive orders. Who's going to stop him? The Supreme Court? Again, not likely. So I think it's a bit of a canard to put all your hopes in the midterms. I'm more concerned about 2028 because, as I said earlier, when I played all those perhaps unintentionally boring clips about how our regular mainstream media is getting swallowed up by the right-wing behemoth, I don't think he's just doing this for the rest of his term because it could be changed with another administration from a different party. Therefore, what's he going to do? That's where Mark's idea of martial law, et cetera, could come into play. I don't think so much in the midterms. He doesn't care. But 2028, that's what I'm worried about. 702-221-7283 is the caller number. Let us go to Scott. Scott, you're next. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, I hope everyone's having a good weekend, Friday.
Yes. We're having a great day, Scott. How about you? Well, you hung up on him. You did? Why? Do you know him? Oh, oh come on, share. Oh, accidental. Oh, well, Scott called back. We did not hang up on you on purpose. You know, you said, I hope everybody's having a great Friday. We are. You not so much. Okay, let's go to Bill. You're next. Thanks for calling.
Hey, Doug.
Hey, Bill.
I got a quote here I want to talk to you about that I think is really good for what's going on right now in this country.
Okay.
And I'm sure you're going to know who this is from. It says, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on to them to do the same. Ronald Reagan.
Oh, okay.
And mind you, this is not Abraham Lincoln and Ronald Reagan's Republican Party.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. And then I got one more question that I'm really angry about. When it comes to Jimmy Kimmel, so they're going to pull him off the air for something really minor. I don't know the guy from Fox, but you played it earlier. But let's just go ahead and kill the homeless.
Yeah, and the mentally ill.
How is that not a fireable offense?
Yeah, I know. Because Brendan Carr is one of the authors of Project 2025, which was designed to subvert, pervert, and destroy our democracy. You think he's going to take a loyal member of the media he needs to keep brainwashing people out the air? Of course he won't.
No. And I agree with you on the midterms. I don't think that should be our focus.
Yeah, I honestly don't think Trump cares.
2028.
Yep.
I would tell all our Democratic and liberal friends that are listening in right now, We need to get out. We need to talk. We need to get people registered. We need to volunteer at our Democratic headquarters in our local communities, because 2028 will be about, do we survive with democracy, or does democracy die?
Agree 100%, Bill.
And I thank you for taking my call. And you did talk to my wife yesterday, Susan.
Oh, nice. I now I can see why you love her.
Oh, yeah. You know, and my family fought in every war in this country.
Yeah, I'm next in line right behind you.
All right. You have a good one.
Hey,
have a good weekend.
Hey, thanks, Bill. Say hi to Susan for me. Take care. 221-7283 is our caller number, area code 702. Let's go to Gary on line 4. Gary, you're next. Thanks for calling.
Today, I haven't heard you in quite a while.
I know.
Hey, yeah, it's been a while. I don't know where you've been. Why don't you get a job at NPR Radio? And why can't you? I like NPR Radio. I wish they wouldn't take their funding away. I know they're, you know, at times a little far left for anybody that.
Actually, they're not. Actually, they're not. What you're interpreting as far left generally is the truth that the right doesn't like to hear. But just to share a story with you, Gary, I did apply there for jobs years ago, and I was told the reputation I have for being so liberal would not fit with what their mission statement is. So as far as them being far left, they wouldn't even look at me. That shows how far left they are.
All right.
They escorted me out the door.
Well, yes, because you started telling those jokes.
Well,
Some of them are over the top.
Yeah,
you
I
know?
probably should have worn pants too, but that's another story.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what do you call it? Let me see. Oh, this is my beef. Besides a whole bunch of stuff. So I listen to Sean Hannity because I'm bored and I'm not sure why I'm listening. And he goes into this rant about you can't depend on the government for anything, and you people out there, you need to start learning this. Next thing I know, he's like, how great it is we're sending in the National Guard and put an end to crime in Washington, D.C. And
I
don't know why.
Gary, I hear you, but why would you expect anything else? That's who these people are.
Doesn't he get a good buck for anyone that advertises and then writes it off as a business expense, and the taxpayers pick up the tab? So isn't, in a way, he is inadvertently benefiting from the government? You know, I'm not a left person on the left. I'm not a person on the right. I try to just be the piano player around here, but sometimes I really wish, I just wish there was more opportunities for regular people, you know, to call. You know, my beef with you and your other guy over there, Brian, is I haven't heard you yet say what the goofball, I shouldn't use the word, the faggot.
Oh, that's better. That's better. Come on, Gary. You can't use that either. Oh, did we lose him? Oh, yeah. Come on, Gary. You can't use words like that on the air. You were worried about saying goofball, and then you issue a homophobic slur. Come on, that's not cool. And see, what bothers me is that you were dispensing a lot of logic there, Gary. You were making good sense. The only thing I didn't quite get was why you would expect anything different than sheer hypocrisy from Fox Noise's Sean Hannity or anybody else in the right-wing propaganda fascist hate media. That's who they are. Yesterday we heard, who was it? I forget, some right-winger. Oh, it was Charlie Kirk, I think, bitching about how this guy that attacked Paul Pelosi, why hasn't he been bailed out? And then right after that, he said, when you go after the Pelosi's, you get out right away. So, I mean, it's not rocket science. These guys just sit there and preach hate and know that you don't get into the nuances. What you just did, Gary, was you got into the nuance. Anyhow, appreciate the call. 221-7283 is the number. Let's go to what number? What one? Let's go to Scott. You're next. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, I got cut off, I guess, by mistake. But my thing is, I'm tired of. I don't know how much you heard me say before I got cut off, but I'm angry at being called names. I'm angry at like the hypocrisy of Donald Trump. I'm angry at the way people just like they want to be respected, but they don't want to give any respect.
Yeah.
And what I was saying earlier was if you don't like democratic policies, don't get welfare, don't get food stamps, don't get Medicare, don't get Social Security.
Don't drive on roads.
Yeah, don't drive on roads. And you know, it's just like I'm tired of the hypocrisy. These people have a Bible that says don't lie, don't cheat on your wife, don't kill, don't all these things. And I don't believe in God. I'm a spiritual atheist. I do believe I have a spirit, but you know, these people, they got a mouthpiece, so they got bold, and sometimes I want to reach out and touch them, and I don't mean with a hug, but you know,
I hear you, brother.
What I was saying before is I live near the veterans hospital out in the Northeast, and sometimes I'll see this one veteran with a MAGA hat on, and I want to ask him. He's in a scooter. I want to ask him. I said, well, like, you support a guy who ducked out of Vietnam 5 times, you know, and then sometimes I'll see a black person with a MAGA hat on, and I want to ask them, when was America great? When we raped the natives? When we during the slavery, after the slavery, when we had Jim Crow in the 20s, when women finally got their right to vote, after World War II, when we were segregated, when Ronald Reagan said, yeah, we're welfare queens, or, you know, when was America great for black people? But hey, you know, what I noticed is you can't help who you love. I could meet a 400-pound stinky woman and fall in love with her, and she could do no wrong. You know, and I'm just tired of Trump. I'm tired of this whole movement. You know, it irks me even that just the word Trump. You know, it's like, take your last breath already. Go meet God. You know, most people don't know he's not Christian. He went to a universal utilitarianism church, which was Norman Vincent Peale.
Yeah.
He was New Yorkers hate him. I'm from New York originally. I'm so glad he's in Florida now. You know,
hey, I appreciate you calling,
man.
Scott. You made a lot of good points. I'm sorry we cut you off accidentally, but I'm glad you got back in. You have a good weekend. And by the way, as I say goodbye to Scott, before we go to the next caller, you might be surprised to know that I have my own MAGA hat. In fact, I'm going to hold it up to the camera right now. Justin, tell me if I've got this. Is that coming up? No? You see it now? Cool. That's my MAGA hat. 221-7283 is our calling number. Let's go to Carl. You're next. Thanks for calling.
Hey, Doug, I'm glad to hear the voice of reason again for a change. Listen, you played the piece about the guy saying the homeless and the mentally ill should be killed.
Yeah.
Well, that would kind of wipe out the MAGA base, wouldn't it? If the mentally ill were.
Well, I wasn't going to say
killed.
that, but seeing as you brought it up, I won't deny.
Yeah. The main thing that bothers me the most, though, to be honest with you, is what's going on with the health of this country. They have Kennedy in charge of a health department. The man doesn't know the difference between an aspirin and a pickle. I mean, here's a man running a whole
He would if he
health
sat on
department.
it.
Well, yeah. We're in a pickle because of this. But the
Indeed we
problem
are.
is every one of Trump's secretaries of different departments, not one of them are able to do the job. They're not qualified. They're not experienced. They know not what they're doing.
And that's not
the health one.
and that's not why they were chosen. We went over this yesterday, Carl, and you heard me
I
saying
understand that.
You know, I went over this months before the election even. He's not picking them because of their expertise. He's picking them because of their loyalty and they're willing to do what he says.
But the worst one, in my opinion, is the health of this country. Because what's happening is somebody in charge who doesn't know anything about the subject, no doctor. Who put somebody in charge of the health of this country who's not a doctor.
Donald
I
Trump.
never heard anything like that. Yeah, I'm saying, but think about it. And as far as the Kirk thing goes, I've heard him quoting things from the Bible, and one of the things I heard him say out of his own mouth, he says, gay people should be stoned to death, like it says in the Bible. I mean, can you believe that? And this is supposed to be a wonderful religious man who the country's supposed to idolize. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I know. Today's Republican MAGA party has a completely different definition and viewpoint of Christianity than we have ever seen.
Well, what's going to happen? I think in the midterm elections, I think the Democrats are going to take over both the House and the Senate, and Trump can sit there and play with his fingers and do whatever he wants. And very little of anything.
Carl, I don't know if you heard me say this like less than 5 minutes ago or maybe 10, but I think we are, it is folly to focus on the midterms. I don't think Trump gives a continental rat's ass if he loses the House and the Senate. He'll just write executive orders, and who's going to stop him? The Supreme Court? The election we need to worry about is 2028, not 2026.
Yeah. But even if he writes orders, they still have to have some kind of a approval through either the Senate or the Congress.
No, they don't. No, they don't. When you have a cabinet, when you got a cabinet full of minions and yes people, they don't need approval from anybody.
Well, to a point, but I just think.
Oh, I think you're missing the point. I think you're missing the point. He doesn't need approval. Dictators don't need approval. When he's got a cabinet full of people that will fire whoever he wants fired, approval? It's not in his lexicon.
Yeah, unfortunately, Trump psychologically, I don't want to say the last thing about this. He's an extreme person who is completely doesn't. What's the word I want to use? He has no He has no confidence in his own self, and he has to insult other people to get the feeling of power.
Yeah.
He's completely that way. It's a psychological thing.
Carl, I agree with you 100%. And that's why I've been saying for the last 2 days that he's the kind of person that has to tear others down to feel good. That is a child. That is not an adult. Okay, back to the phones. Chris, you are next. Thanks for calling.
Hi, can you hear me?
I sure can.
Hi, Doug. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Well, it could be better. It could be worse. You know how it is, right?
I do.
But anyways, yeah, this is my second time calling in. And, well, I only want to say like just a couple different things here and to say my piece, and then I'll be done. Okay. But, of course, there's some things I could say, but a lot was already said. But anyways, a second civil war is coming. And I'm not just talking like with the media and all that. I'm talking like an actual war is going to break out here very soon. I just got that feeling. And I don't know if people here I don't know if people in the chat will agree with me or not. I don't know how you feel about it, but how the first Civil War was fought was literally between the Union and the Confederates. Well, I got news for you people. This is just my opinion. The second Civil War is going to be fought. It's not going to be the right versus the left. It's not going to be Republicans versus Democrats. It's going to be the United States of America versus the MAGA cult. I don't know how you feel. I don't know how you feel about that, but that's just me.
Well, that's an interesting take. The right has been calling for civil war before Trump got into office. I mean, this is something they have been so brainwashed into believing that liberals hate this country, they hate the military, they hate God. There's a contingent that's been calling for civil war for decades. Now, it has certainly been exacerbated in the era of Trump. But my question has always been, what will the logistics be? MAGA versus normal. It's like, how are you going to know? Are they going to go door to door and ask how you voted? I mean, it's hard to see the logistics and how the actual battlefield will look like. Does that make sense?
Right. Right. No, it makes 100. It makes absolute sense. And another thing I wanted to bring up is right. Another thing I wanted to say, and if you don't mind, I just have a question for the MAGA people that are listening in here.
Sure.
Are you people who support Trump? Are you that 1,000 times more than brain dead, or do you even have a brain? Because if you think for 1 second that Trump gives a damn about any of us, then you're more delusional than I thought. Because I'll say this. I was never part of the military myself. So I don't know how other people in the military think. I don't know how, but this is just my personal opinion. Any member of the armed forces who are blindly following Trump and are following his orders regardless of what constitutional right is breaking, it doesn't matter. If you are a member of the armed forces and you are allowing this to happen, then not only are you in my personal opinion, you're violating your oath and you're betraying the country that you swore to protect. But that's just me. I don't know how you feel about it, but that's just me.
I feel 100%. I agree with you 100%. I couldn't agree more. I mean, you're just spot on. That was a great call. I wish I was going to be here tomorrow so we could all talk again. But anyhow, maybe in another 8 months, I'll be filling in. Who knows? 221-7283 is the number. Let's go to Albert. You're next. Thanks for calling.
Hey, how you doing? This is Albert from Los Angeles.
Hey, Albert, I'm doing well. How are you?
Well, I'm doing okay. Just really bothered at how is this, and I feel like screaming on the top of a mountain and say, America, wake up. Our freedom of expression, of freedom of the press, everything is being trampled by this man in the White House. We have an enemy within, and he's in the White House.
Yep, 100%.
Okay. If they fire Kimmel and they fire Colbert, what does that tell you? He's trying to what he's doing is he's trying to straighten his arm to see how far he could go to take over independent media, national networks, everything under his belt through his rich buddies. Like you mentioned earlier in your stories and your clips about all these mergers.
Mm-hmm.
What did that tell you? All of them are his rich friends.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
What? They're all controlling media. What is we're becoming? He wants to control.
And you know,
media,
something,
everything.
Albert. You know something, Albert. When I was playing those clips, and I said it gets a little thick, and it may even be a little boring. You took away the main thing. If that's all everybody got out of those clips, that's it. That's enough.
He straightened his arms. He's straightening his strength. See how far he could go with his French friends to merge all these networks to see where he could control through his rich friends. But everything's going to run through him. Yep. What country has done that? Venezuela and Nicaragua. Nicaragua have actually controlled all state media, all networks. Fired all their actors, all their news reporters, all their independent reporters. They were prosecuted. Some were even prosecuted, and some were even killed.
Yeah,
because they said something negative about Nicolas Maduro.
Yeah,
what's going to happen in this country if things don't go, if we don't act quickly.
Yeah, I hear you 100%. I mean, he is following the dictator playbook to a T, and the sooner people wake up to that, the sooner we have a better chance of ending it before it goes to the point of no return. 221-7283 is the number. Jeff, you're next. Thanks for calling.
Hey, Doug, it's been a while since I've heard you on the radio from that other radio station.
Been a while since I've been on the radio.
I know that other radio station has really gone, downhill as far as free speech.
I know.
Years ago I called Nancy Pelosi when Obama was president, and I talked to one of the persons there about the Monroe Doctrine and AM radio, because it was a question of free speech back then, and he said that's not part of our program or agenda or that wasn't part of the politics at the time.
Right.
So, even then you could see that there was free speech was already in trouble back then because, all the AM radio stations were all conservative and you couldn't even I mean, they wouldn't even take Democratic calls.
Oh, back when I was on that station, guess who the only host was who got death threats?
Yeah. Yeah.
Moi. They even took me off the air for 2 weeks, and they said, we don't want to give the caller what he wants. I said, what kind of logic is that? What he wants is me off the air. So you're taking me off the air. That'll show him.
Yeah. And then, Jay Leno for years would every night would be talking about Clinton, and nobody had that, Republicans never complained. I mean, Democrats never complained about that, or the FCC. I mean, the FCC has been Republican forever since Ronald Reagan.
Yep.
And they always complain when freedom of speech when they're getting hurt, but not when freedom of speech really is being suppressed.
Exactly.
And these corporations, they're more interested in their mergers than their freedom of speech. I mean, Skydance and Oracle, these are major film studios and AI computer companies and stuff like that, and yet they've pretty much gone on board with Donald Trump.
Yeah, yep, they're caving, bending the knee, and kissing the ring. Hey, Jeff, I got to run. It's great to hear from you. I recognize your voice. You and I go way back, and we've had some great conversations. I hope we'll have more. 221-7283 is the number. Carol, you are next. Thanks for calling. Oh, Carol, I am but a fool.
Yeah.
Hey, Carol.
Hi.
How you
Hi,
doing?
Doug.
How you doing?
All right. I just have about Trump. He's delusional or demented, one or the other. And what upsets me is the way he's treating our homeless and the immigrants. And what worries me the most is him wanting to remove mail-in ballots for all the seniors and that in this country.
Yeah. I know. I hate to sound like a broken record, but everything he is doing is right out of the Dictator 101 playbook. I mean, it's as obvious as the noses on our face. And yet we had one guy calling yesterday and say, all this talk about Trump being a threat to democracy, it's nonsense. It's like...
Yeah, Trump, he's just sad in that he wants to remove the mail-in ballots, and because he says they're crooked and fraud.
Meanwhile, there are red states that have used mail-in voting for years, if not decades, who say we've never had a problem. But for some reason, he's got it stuck in his head that it is a problem, and what he thinks is all that matters.
Yeah. Well, he is the problem, period.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Need to remove him before anything gets worse here.
It's tricky, but there's got to be a way that falls within the confines and restrictions of the law. I wish I knew what it was. Impeachment's not the answer.
Well, I'm a senior citizen, and I'm scared.
Yeah.
I mean, when he threatens Social Security and that's my livelihood, and I'm scared.
Well, you have every right to be, but keep the faith, and I wish I could offer more encouraging words, but right now I'm kind of stuck on the fence of exactly what to do. I mean, I keep waiting. It's like karma. When are you going to do your job? Cholesterol. What's keeping you, from doing your job? I mean, I don't know. We're just in a bad place, and we wouldn't be if there weren't so many and I hate to say this. Well, actually, no, I don't. We wouldn't be in this place if there weren't so many GD stupid people in this country. Stupid, brainwashed, ignorant people.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
And I mean, Kennedy, he's dumber than a box of rocks.
Bobby Brainworm. Hey, I got to run, but I appreciate your call. You hang in there. We will get through this. One way or to other, we will. 221-7283 is the number. Paul in the UK, you're next.
Hi there, Doug. Thanks for taking the call.
Thanks for making it.
Hi. Yeah, so as a keen observer of what's been going on for 10 years and having read at least a dozen books on this orange git in the White House.
I love that
the
word,
thing that
git.
It's very English. The thing that makes me, this is what it is. His hardcore, loyal MAGAs, these are people who have given up the right to think for themselves because thinking's tough. That's what happens when you grow up from a child to an adult. You have to think for yourself, take the responsibility of your own thoughts. They're the hardcore. The next lot are the people who think it won't be so bad, the senators and so on, and we can control them. The bit that worries me is the next level of people who know it's wrong, terrible, but have given up. And they just think maybe it won't be so bad. This is what happened in Nazi Germany. Yeah. Most of those people were good people. They were decent, honestly, family people. They didn't hate Jews, they didn't hate disabled people, but they thought it's better just to go with the flow. It's easier, and lived under the illusion that their lives would continue more or less the same, with maybe a few more stop signs.
Yeah.
This is not the case. The lesson of World War II should teach everybody in America and all the countries who are leaning this way, there's some of it going on in England, should teach us all it doesn't work out like that. Even for those people who are kind of neutral but thinking, I'll just get on with my life, maybe it's not so bad. Those people, it gets to everybody in the end. To everybody. And I put out a Blue Sky Guy tweet today on a pointed subject to Kash Patel. I said, Dear Kash Patel, who do you think the white Christo-fascists will go for once they've run out of Democrats? You know, these people are delusional.
I know. I mean,
everybody will get it, and I think the courts are failing you. The lower courts are okay, but the Supreme Court put its dirty thumb on the scales.
Yep.
The Senate failed you. The Congress has failed you. The newspapers are failing you. The corporations are failing you. I think it's down to the people. When Trump came to the UK, there were protests all over the place.
Yeah, you're right. But, our own people have failed us. You said it's down to the people now. Unfortunately, millions of them have already and continue to fail us. But like I say,
this is what I'm worried about.
Yeah.
This is what scares me, Doug, is that the people are the last bastion. The last bastion, because in the end, fascism is turned over by the people. In the end, these leaders are turned over by the people. Mussolini found that out. In the end, they're turned over by the people. But what worries me is that the people at the moment, people, not like you specifically, but good people, the good people are going to kind of roll over. That's what worries me.
As I say, I agree with you 100%. We all should be, and I think anybody who pays attention is worried, is scared, is fearful. I mean, we have to be. We have to start taking this as seriously as a heart attack. I saw there on the board that we had a Patrick on line 5. Is that MAGA Patrick? Oh, it wasn't MAGA Patrick? Oh, damn. Well, okay. Then I don't mind that he hung up. I was hoping it would be MAGA Patrick. Anyhow, 221-7283 is the number, area code 702. Let's talk to Margie. You're next. Thanks for calling.
Hey, Doug, can you hear me?
I sure can. And by the way, Margie was my mom's name.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep.
Anyway, dude, listen. I am very freaking exhausted. I don't know about anybody else, but I am exhausted from all of it. I am frustrated. I am scared. I have 3 biracial grandchildren, which also scares me because I am in my 60s. And when I die, what the hell are they leaving my grandchildren? What are they leaving any of our children?
Yeah.
It makes me angry. The other point that I want to make to you, and I want to see how you feel on this, is I am a big Kamala Harris fan. I love Kamala. I thought she'd been great for the country. My biggest problem with Kamala right now, and I'm very angry about it, is that she did not call out and want that election recounted. Because if she had, I can guarantee you, he did not win. Brian will always go up against it and say there's no evidence to prove that. I get it. But my thing is, there is no way on God's green earth that man won all the swing states. I'm sorry. I will never believe it. I will always believe that she won and somehow it was fixed. I don't know how you feel about that, but right now we're in this, you know, and anybody that said Kamala wasn't better for the country, what are you living in a shoebox? She's way better than what we have now.
Well,
she warned us about all of this, and no one listened.
And so did Hillary Clinton before the 2016 election.
Absolutely. And no one freaking listened.
Yeah.
Project 2025 isn't a hoax, people. It's really happening. Get a clue.
Yeah, as far as Kamala being better for the country, on that we agree 100%. On the issue of the election being fixed, while I would like to believe that, I mean, keep in mind which party and which president was in power when that election was held. Democrats. So I don't know that they would have had the infrastructure or the manpower to fix the election, or how they would. I'm sure if there was anything that could point to that, Democrats would have at least written a sternly worded letter.
I just don't like the idea that she just gave up so easily.
Well, as I say, we're past that point now. With him in power, there's never going to be a serious investigation into anything regarding the election except his conspiracy theories and lies.
Well, he's an idiot and he needs to go. And back to the original point, with all of these things, these hangings and stuff in Mississippi and North Carolina, that's worrisome for me. Because my grandchildren are young, and it bothers me. Because when I'm going and, you know, what am I leaving my grandchildren?
Yeah.
It bothers me. Like, it's scary for me.
Yeah, I understand. We just have to be vigilant and, you know, aware of what's going on. I mean, that's the best we can do. 221-7283 is the number. Let's talk to Armando. You're next. Thanks for calling.
Oh, yeah, Doug. How are you?
I'm doing well, Armando. Long time.
Yeah. Well, I heard that soundbite where you had a reporter asking Jim Fidan about how you're dealing with the assassination of Kirk, and he responds, "Oh, as best I can."
Yeah, let me tell you about my ballroom.
Yeah. Which reminded me about, remember those old commercials by George Foreman? And somehow he was responding to questions that needed some kind of solution. And he would quickly respond by saying, "It ain't my problem. It's not my problem."
Yeah, exactly. I think that was for the home warranty commercial. Not my problem.
Yeah, that one's a long time ago. I forgot it. And so that's how he's dealing with the assassination. The only ways that he's going to have any interest is if he can exploit it.
Right.
And and that's it. That's all I have to say.
I know. It's as one caller said earlier, we're in a pickle.
A pickle and cabbage. Yeah.
I hear you, Armando. I appreciate you calling. It's been a while since we've had a chance to talk. I hope it won't be as long before the next time we get to talk. 221-7283 is our number at the station. That's area code 702-221-SAVE, as in Save Our Democracy. And when it was our turn to do it, hey, we didn't. Let's go to Lauren. You're next. Thanks for calling.
Hi, Doug. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Lauren. Can I tell you about my ballroom?
No.
You don't want to hear? Okay. I don't really have one anyway.
Oh, well, that's disappointing.
Yeah, I know.
But anyway, it's good to hear you back. It's been a long time.
It has 8 months.
Well, gosh, it seems longer than that.
But the baby arrived early, so I'm free.
Yeah. I guess one thing that because I know that you're a fair guy, is, do you honestly believe that administrations, irregardless of what party they're from, they don't use their position to control things?
To a certain extent, yes. To actually destroy and subvert the Constitution, no.
Okay.
I mean, every administration, the executive branch has tried to increase executive branch power. All presidents do that. Biden did it, Obama did it, Trump did it, everybody did it. But what we are seeing now is that's not the same thing. What we are seeing now is an attempt to put everything under the control of the executive branch, and that is fascism.
I am opposed to executive orders. I think that I've seen them abused on both sides. I don't agree with it. It takes away from the legislation that the Congress is supposed to do. And
but how do you?
I don't know.
How do you feel about all these mergers in the media falling under the control of Trump?
Well, honestly, I haven't followed that part.
Did you hear today's show?
Oh, I did hear this. Yeah, I heard the information that you put out.
Then you have heard about it.
I'm not in favor of that. As far as the way that I think that the world is going, I think our whole economic system is going to be changing drastically in the very near future. I think with the onset of the BRICS nations, with China, Russia, India, you know, the five main characters in that particular group. What is it, like 3.5 billion people? I'm concerned about that. I think that
let me cut to the chase, Lauren. How concerned are you with Trump's increasing fascistic inclinations and actions, calling for people to be fired? Now he's talking about the last thing we did was Trump talking about removing licenses from entire media organizations, not just having certain people fired, but removing their license. And guess what they'll have to do to get it back? Bend the friggin' knee.
Okay, I'm not in favor of something like that.
But that's what's happening. That's what's happening. First it was Colbert, now it's Jimmy Kimmel. I mean, you're not in favor of it, but let me guess, do you continue to support this guy?
Do I continue to support him? There's policies that I like, yes.
But that doesn't matter, Lauren. I'm sure there were Hitler and Mussolini, as they say, made the trains run on time.
I didn't know Hitler or Mussolini, you know, and I didn't live during that period.
But Lauren, you've read history. You know what I'm trying to say.
Oh, I follow history.
Right. So you know that any leader, no matter how evil they are, did some good things for their country. But that's not the point. I mean, how long do you keep supporting someone that you know is trying to destroy the Constitution and turn himself into an autocrat?
Well, I'm sorry. It's what was our choice?
What was our choice? The opposite of someone who would uphold the Constitution and not subvert it and destroy it.
And you honestly believe that?
Yes. I can answer before you ask. Yes, I do.
Okay. Well,
what were you going to ask? If I think Kamala Harris would have been better than Trump?
Oh, no, I honestly, having the children that I have, I think that I thought that it was a good thing to see someone, especially since I have 4 daughters, that someone of color was going to run for office there. Did I necessarily agree with her policies? No.
Yeah, and yet you support the guy who said he didn't want black people counting his money.
Oh. Well,
I don't know, Lauren. You and I get along. You and I are friends, but for the life of me, I just don't see how my good friend Lauren can keep supporting this guy. I really can't. I got to run, Lauren. Lauren, I got to run. I'm up against the clock. You and I will talk again. 221-7283 is the number. Mama Lisa, you're next. Thanks for calling.
Can y'all hear me?
I sure can.
Okay. Now, I have so much to say, but I'm just going to pick one because I tell you, Mama can go all day. Okay. I just want to I'm trying to figure out which elephant in the room to face first.
Yeah, no kidding.
Okay. Now, I told y'all before, I was Democrat all my life because that's what my mama told me. Poor black folks vote Democrat. But as the older I get, I'm just going to tell you the truth. I don't see nothing neither one of them did for me. And now let me go back and about this cancel culture y'all talk. I'm trying to go fast because I don't want to take up too much time. This here, some call me a conspiracy theory. I'm not. I just see things as they are and not as they seem. The Democrats were doing the same thing. We couldn't say certain things that they were canceling you too. Now, am I right or wrong? Now, I ain't for the Democrats. I ain't for the Republicans no more. I'm just for God. Because I have faith in this country. I really did until I seen what happened January 6, 2020. I lost all faith. Then come your pandemic. I'm just saying. I only have faith and trust in God because that's all we going to have to stand on. We can't trust these people to make nothing better for us. These people don't like none of us down here. Don't care. Am I right or wrong about it? But however, the way the things is going in the country and with this here man, it's just wrong on so many levels. We're not to talk or make fun of nobody. They did things that was ugly. Now they acting like they didn't. They said things that was ugly on people. They act like they didn't. Am I crazy out here? Am I only the one? Am I the only one seeing all the ugly stuff they did and said, and now they pushing back like they just all good? The devil is a lie.
No,
I watches everything.
You're not crazy, and you're not the only one who's seeing it. A lot of people are seeing it, but what remains true is that Donald Trump is still president. And I mean, it's so frustrating. It is. I mean, I hate when I get speechless and the only words that come to mind are vulgar and profanity. I mean, I really hate it, but that's what this man has done to this country. He has put us in this position, and it was our fellow citizens who betrayed us and failed us and put him in that position. Okay, let's go to Tony. You're next. Thanks for calling.
Doug freaking Basham.
Oh, Tony.
It's that Tony.
Wow. If I'd known that, I would have gone to you sooner. The problem.
I had to get in for your 2 days of glory here, and then before you leave for another 8, 9, 10 months.
Exactly.
Yeah, clock's great. Clock's ticking on me and you. We're both probably about the same age. So I got to make sure I get in.
Exactly. This could be our last conversation. It might not even last till the end of the show.
Tomorrow's guaranteed to no one, my friends. We both know that. Anyway, I just thought I'd come in and say, to see it, my friend from the great white north, and to see that, well, I had heard that you'd soften your stance on Trump and MAGA. I was wrong.
Well, but I mean, not without good cause, Tony. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, Doug, you're preaching the choir. Remember, I go way back with you. But I can honestly say this before the call ends. Again, I'm glad to see you're healthy. Hope the back's doing okay. And I can say this in all honesty with everyone. I will never vote for President Trump again. How about that?
Well, I hope you mean that, because if he has anything to do with it, that he'll be your only choice in 2028. But hey, Tony, I got to run. I'm out of time. I appreciate you calling.
I know. It's good to hear to see you. As usual, I hate myself for listening to Doug Basham.
I love you, Tony. It's always a pleasure to talk. We'll do it again in another 8 months or so. Who knows? Maybe Brian will have another vigil to go to in the next, month or two, and we'll be back here sooner. I don't know. Whatever the case, I appreciate Brian letting me fill in for the last 2 days. I really appreciate those of you who have called in. You made my day. You made it even more fun. Like I said at the top of the show, I have fun doing the show anyway, but you guys that called in, you're great. You just went above and beyond, and you made it more fun than I thought it would be. So anyhow, again, it's been a slice. Until next time, whenever that is, take care.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds